Okay, so the name of our EP is Suburban Struggling, and we are the band Hammered and Nasal. And this is the cover of our EP. Next slide. When finding a cover for either a studio album or an EP, number one purpose of the cover is to catch the listener's attention. A lot of what makes a good album cover also correlates with like the basic principles of design. And a lot of what the basic principles of this, a lot of what is in for design changes from decade to decade. So if you go back to the last slide, you'll see that the Jefferson Starship cover, even though kind of seems a little hokey to us now, in the 1970s did its job as compared to Adele's 21. They're both entirely different covers, but they both accomplished like getting the listener's attention in their time period. You can go back. Some of the most iconic covers in music history have been simple, and a lot of what makes good cover art is just simply getting the message across. It's hard to see here, but this is the cover of the White Album by the Beatles, and of course it is just a blank white cover. And this is Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd, and it doesn't even say on the cover the name of the album or the name of the band, but it does such a good job of conveying its message, you don't even have to know. Like, you can just see the prism and know that that's Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd. Next slide. So for our cover, we decided to use a picture of 2004 Honda Odyssey. A lot of what is supposed to, the first message that will hit the listeners is a message of like irony, because we took the picture of the minivan in somewhat of an aggressive like show-off stance of the car, like the 3/4 front view, but minivans aren't necessarily like an aggressive car. We included the name and EP title to help tell the story even better. One of the new things that is in now for album art is not putting the name of anything on there, just having the picture. But we felt that having Suburban Struggling under the van helps to convey the message better as opposed to without the name. And that is because like a lot of what our 3 songs on the EP are about are like problems that are relevant to us, but aren't necessarily relevant like to the rest of society. And it's kind of a lot of what this is supposed to be is like supposed to be like neutral, like middle of the road, like middle class. And so the 2004 Odyssey is a symbol of like the middle class and like suburban lifestyle that all 3 artists came from. And we borrowed heavily from the Black Keys El Camino cover, and the meaning behind the cover of El Camino is different. For the Black Keys, they used to tour in that van, so that van was like a symbol of like them going across the Midwest and touring. The reason that I include this though is because it shows that even though the covers are supposed to have different meanings, you can still accomplish those meanings like with the same concept.
Okay, so that was a little bit about the cover art. Now, after before we even organized all of that, a lot of the work went into just editing and arranging the tracks into what order we thought was best. Since we were a 3-person group, when we originally brought our songs together and listened to them, the first thing that the format that we decided to try and follow was almost a 3-act performance, or a typical Greek Aristotelian play performance, because that is one of the most accurate visual depictions of how different types of art would be displayed like this. Another example would be a triptych art if it was visual. So what we did was we listened to each other's songs and rearranged them in ways that we thought would complement each other's songs. When we followed the Aristotle's dramatic arc regarding the format of play, we decided for the first track to be "Rainy Day," which was the song that I wrote, to serve as the exposition and rising action. And then for the second song, we decided to use "Sunny Days," which was Callie's song. And since it was a lot shorter, that song was put in the middle to create a sort of suspense or a crisis. Overlaying into that section, Paul's song, the last song, which was also the longest song, was put last as the ending climax and also falling action, because it displayed a unique amount of growth and was one of the more relatable, and we thought one of the better sounding songs. So we thought it was a very good song to finish off with.
And with digital distribution, one would think that like track listing isn't necessarily as important as it was like in the days of vinyl, because at least for me, if you go on iTunes and like you want to look up your new favorite band's new album, you'll just like either pick the first one and listen to that and not listen to any of the others, or just like shuffle through them on Pandora or Spotify. But it is actually, track listing is actually very important now with digital design or with digital distribution. Many artists will put their strongest songs at the ends of their LPs or EPs because the digital viewer is more likely to go to the ends of the album or the EP than they are to listen to the songs in the middle.
So yeah, this talks a little bit about, goes in a little bit more depth about what we did with each individual song. Like I said, a lot of the process for putting together the album was the revision process. So we have an audio clip. Can you try?
Where's that page of view?
Okay, that's supposed to have a link on it, but that is okay. I already explained it a little bit. It had we chose "Rainy Day" as the first song because it had a great example of rising exposition and rising action, which also was reflected with a simple guitar riff. It did not have a lot of instruments. It wasn't very distracting. It was a very good introductory piece. After we listened to the song, we re-recorded sections of it to reduce the amount of fret buzz, and also lower the vocals and added speaker effects to complement the other instruments in the song. So next slide. And then "Sunny Days" was the second. As I said, it served as the rising action or crisis. This song actually had the biggest revision that we had for the entire album, which was we actually cut half of the lyrics from the latter half of the song. The reason why we did this is because the piano melody subsided, and we did that to create the suspense that would lead well into Paul's song. And although it didn't, at an individual level, may have cut a little bit from the second song, as a whole, the overall product would have sounded much, much better. And so yeah. All right, and then "My Fault" was the last song. It was also the longest song, but we left it mainly untouched. Most of what we did was just minor guitar amplifier effects and slight vocal changes, very, very small. Most of it was just lowering it and rearranging the mic to different sections of the amplifier.
Let's go to our sound lab.
We're
page and play it.
running a little over time.
Where?
So we should probably just go back.
Where?
Alright. So this graph here is top social networks and top networks for news in all countries. It shows the countries as a whole, what social media groups that they use the most. And the percentages allowed us to choose which social networks would promote our album best.
And which social media mediums we would use the most in trying to promote the EP.
As you can see, about 60% of the world is connected to Facebook, which was our first choice as a place as, well, we could post it on Facebook instead of something other than an Instagram or a Pinterest. Another site that we use to give a sample of our album is SoundCloud. SoundCloud has gained many followers, so much as to be equally known to the other popular music site, Spotify. Many people within the past year have gained the knowledge of SoundCloud and have liked it equally. Based on the newest statistics taken back in February 2015, 60% of people around the world have at least heard of SoundCloud, while 1 out of 10 people have used it in the previous month. Used it as listening to music or downloading their own type of music, and twice are likely to pay to listen to the music on SoundCloud, meaning that 730 million people have used SoundCloud back in January 2015.
So, that said, with the different media uses of media that we use to promote our album, the album actually did fairly well in terms of how much popularity it gained in such a short amount of time. The Facebook, all these pages, including a Facebook, Twitter, and SoundCloud page, were created about the same time, and within 30 days, within 3 days, the Facebook page had already gained 30 likes, and all of our songs had gotten over 20 plays per song, which was pretty cool, actually. The fact that just through those mediums and the amount of accessibility that everyone had to them really showed how quickly that music can spread through even local groups. Now, this was just for a local area. If we had we aimed at a local area just so that we could get as many people as quickly as possible. But if we aimed for a larger area, such as targeting people who access Facebook or Twitter between Fredericksburg and DC, or in the DC and Richmond metropolitan areas, the gain may have been a lot slower, but it could have gone up a substantial amount over a few months. But due to the short duration of the project, we want to get as many people listening to the album as quickly as possible. So yeah.
These are just a few of the sources that we use to gather for information.